There's quite a few benefits for companies listing onto the Australian Small Scale Offerings Board. If we start with obviously the structuring process of the offer, these growing Australian companies are effectively shepherded or mentored through to a point where they're investor ready, and that's facilitated by the ASSOB sponsors that are out in the field working with the clients on a day-to-day basis. So these ASSOB sponsors will firstly identify, I guess, the diamonds in the rough. Then once they've engaged that client has engaged that ASSOB sponsor, then the actual ASSOB sponsor will work with the company to really get them investor ready. So the ASSOB sponsor will look at their board, their valuation, share capital structure, business model, financials, and basically get them to the point where they're investor ready. Meanwhile, in terms of, they'll start taking them through the ASSOB process, and part one, in terms of actually listing or putting the application forward to the ASSOB Admissions Committee. Once that's approved, ASSOB will actually build a profile page on the ASSOB platform. We do that in what we call VIP or preview mode. And the beauty of that is really that the companies can get a profile page on the ASSOB platform and start using that in their marketing, in compliant marketing, so that they can start directing people to the profile page and building interest and awareness and anticipation for the impending offer that might happen in a couple of weeks to a couple of months' time. So then we move on to when the offer is actually live. Again, we're still in that VIP or preview mode. The company then goes out to all their networks using the profile page, the link to the profile page that we've created, and that, again, they're able to give the networks known to the company first look in at the offer even before it goes fully live onto the ASSOB platform. So that's a really good summary of the benefits of going through the ASSOB process. In terms of some of the other benefits for a company listing onto the ASSOB platform, we've actually got the ability for companies to raise potentially up to $5 million without the need for full-blown disclosure or a prospectus. So certainly, that in itself is quite beneficial, because it keeps the time, the cost, and obviously the compliance down to a reasonable level for these growing Australian companies. It allows them to focus on building their widget or servicing their widget, whatever their business model is focused on, rather than time, money, and compliance spent on really the capital raising side of things. So obviously there's still compliance and time and money required, but it's certainly kept on the lighter side. Another very strong benefit of the Australian Small Scale Offerings Board is the fact that once a company's finished actually raising capital, what we do is we actually flick them over from what we call the primary raise, which is where they're actually raising capital, to then what we call secondary sales. Now, ASSOB isn't a stock exchange, but what we have got is really the ability for any of those investors that have invested under the offer, under the primary raise, to then potentially sell down some or all of their holdings once the actual primary raise is finished. And that's of great benefit, obviously, to the potential investors, although most of them are in it for the long haul, to see them go on and possibly do an exchange listing or a trade sale or stay listed on ASSOB. It at least gives them a potential exit or liquidity mechanism prior to that major exit. So that's very beneficial. Obviously, from a company perspective as well, it's beneficial, the secondary sales, in terms of it has the ability to bolster the investor spread for the company. So if they are looking at going on to an exchange listing, then potentially through secondary sales you're bolstering that investor or shareholder spread, which is obviously useful if they are looking at an exchange listing. So there's just some of the benefits of listing onto the platform.